Funny thing about memory, it don't much care for the calendar. Some days, it'll sneak up behind you with a whiff of gunpowder or the cry of a coyote, and suddenly you're back there, knuckles white on a Winchester, your whole life balanced on the edge of a knife. Folks still whisper about what happened out by Dead Man's Crossing in the spring of '71, but I'm here to tell you, no one living remembers it quite like I do. I'd lost more than blood that morning. My shoulder was leaking steady, shirt sticky and hot, but pain's just noise when your worlds come apart at the seams. My Martha lay quiet in the dust, our wagon in splinters, and the only thing holding me upright was the 5 pairs of eyes looking to me like I still had answers left. Rebecca, tough as rawhide at 12, held baby Sam. The twins, Jesse and Jeb, clung to each other behind a busted barrel, and little Ruth was so scared she wouldn't let go of my hand, not even when I told her to run. We'd heard the bandits before we saw 'em, just shapes up on the rim, faces covered, firing wild and fast. No warning, no mercy. They swept through our camp like a dry wind through tall grass. When the shooting stopped, there were 23 bodies cooling in the sun, and no horses left, just us, stranded halfway between nowhere and a slow death. I remember thinking maybe it would be easier if we just lay down with the rest. But then Ruth whimpered, and that sound, I swear, cut through the fog sharper than a Bowie knife. That's when I saw her. She came out of the brush, quiet as dusk, an Apache woman, eyes dark and sharp as obsidian, rifle in one hand, knife hanging easy at her hip. I tensed, nudging the kids behind me, not sure if she'd come to finish what the bandits started. She studied us, real careful, not a flicker of pity in her face. Then, in English so plain it startled me, she said, "You are hurt." Her voice was low, steady, had the kind of patience you hear in someone who's lost more than she'll ever tell. "We're not looking for trouble," I croaked. My mouth was dry as old bone. She almost smiled. "Trouble's already found you, white man." And that was that. She stepped closer, ignoring the way my hand shook on the butt of my pistol. "You cannot stay here," she said, eyes drifting to the vultures circling overhead. "Death draws more death." She had a name, Naya. Means something like spring after drought, she'd tell me later, if she was in a mood to talk. Back then, she was just the only living soul between my family and oblivion. I could see the question in her eyes. Why bother helping? Folks like us had brought nothing but heartache to her people. Soldiers had burned their villages, brought sickness, broke every promise they ever made. My kind were the enemy, plain as day. But something, maybe the way Ruth pressed her dirty face into my shirt, maybe the fear in Rebecca's eyes, made Naya hesitate. "My camp is half a day's walk," she finally said. "Come, or stay and die. I don't care." She did, though. I saw it in the way her jaw tightened when Jessie coughed, and how she glanced back to make sure we kept up. We gathered what little we could: water barrel, a strip of dried venison, my old revolver with 2 bullets left. The march across that hellscape is a blur, sun burning down, dust in our teeth, my arm going numb. The kids didn't complain, just kept their heads down and followed Naya, step for step. Somewhere between 2 dead mesquites, she stopped, crouching low. "We're being followed," she said, voice flat. I felt ice trickle down my spine. Bandits, or worse, scavengers looking for anything left alive. Naya motioned for silence and led us into a narrow cut between rocks. If she hadn't, I reckon we'd all be bones by morning. Night fell, and we made a fire no bigger than a lantern flame. The kids huddled close while Naya kept watch, fingers never straying far from her rifle. Rebecca, bold as ever, sidled up beside her. "You didn't have to save us," my daughter said, voice small. Naya was quiet for a while, feeding grass into a half-woven basket. "No, I did not." "Then why?" Rebecca pressed. I saw something flicker in Naya's eyes, a shadow of old grief. "Once, I had a daughter. She died because your soldiers thought my people were thieves. I saved a dying man that day, too. Sometimes you help because someone should, even if it changes nothing." Rebecca nodded, tears running silent down her cheeks. That was the first time I understood that mercy could weigh as heavy as hate. Come morning, we set out again. My shoulder was burning hot, fever gnawing at my edges. Little Sam's cough got worse, and every time we heard hoofbeats in the distance, my heart threatened to claw out of my chest. But Naya never faltered, her footsteps as sure as if she owned the land itself. By dusk, we reached her camp, a ring of wickiups in a hidden valley. The Apache there didn't take kindly to strangers. Warriors gripped spears and stared holes through us. An old man with silver in his braids, called himself Black Crow, stepped forward, eyes hard as flint. Naya spoke in her own tongue, voice calm but unyielding. Black Crow looked us over, then barked something I didn't catch. We were given shelter, food, medicine for my wound. That night, I lay awake listening to the quiet voices outside, wondering if we'd survive the week. Days bled into weeks. The children adapted faster than I did, learning Apache words, running wild with the other kids, laughing for the first time since their ma died. I watched Rebecca braid her hair like Naya, saw the twins trail after young hunters. Ruth spent her time with the elders, learning songs she'd hum for years after. Me, I never stopped looking over my shoulder. I was grateful, sure, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was living on borrowed time, ours and theirs. The Apache tolerated us, mostly for Naya's sake, but suspicion was always close at hand. Trouble came just as the weather turned. Word arrived that a cavalry patrol was headed our way, waving a white flag but carrying plenty of guns. Black Crow called a council. I was invited, which meant they trusted me, or they just wanted to watch me squirm. The soldiers wanted us back, promised safe passage to California, trade goods, horses, the works. But I saw the real reason in the lieutenant's eyes. To him, we were damaged goods, tainted by living too long with savages. He tried to be polite, but every word was soaked in suspicion. "What happened to you out here?" he asked. "Did they force you to stay? Have you adopted their ways?" I felt heat in my face, anger and shame knotted together. No one forced us. They saved our lives. And maybe there's more than one way to live decent in this world. The Apache Council left the decision to me. Stay and risk trouble for the people who'd saved us. Go and become strangers again, outsiders to both worlds. That night, I sat by the fire with my children, asked them what they wanted. Rebecca looked into the flames, voice steady. "Ma always said home's where you're needed. Maybe we can help build something here, something better." In the end, I made my choice at dawn. Walked out to the cavalry lines, boots sinking in the cold dirt, every muscle in my body tight as a drawn bow. Lieutenant asked where we'd go. "We'll head to Dust Creek," I told him. "There's work to be done." He blinked. "You're not going to California?" "No, sir. We've got friends to stand by and debts to pay." I turned back once, saw Naya standing alone at the edge of camp. She raised a hand, barely more than a shadow in the morning light. That's the last I saw of her for a long, long time. You want to know how it ended? Hell, some stories don't ever really end. They just settle in your bones and wait for the night to come around again.